Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Jessie and this is the Knit Up and Dye podcast, episode 79, Definitions. As always, I'm going to start with my thank yous. I have my cheat sheet because my thank yous have gotten longer and longer every episode. I so appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Special thank you goes out to all of my subscribers, new and ongoing. I love you guys. What you see here is ultimately all about you, and I'm always looking to hear from you about what you want to see. Hello and welcome go to, please forgive me if I say your name wrong, Pryatka Handspun Art, Heidi, Rebecca, Annie, Jane, Naja. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for adding me to your day. Special love and thanks go out to Faye, Adriana, Wayne, Sonia, Patricia, Lisa Lette, Cappy, Kath, Bente, Christy, Neetsy, Charlotte, Chris, Roseanne, Linda, Marie, Eve, David, Donna, Betty Ann, Scott and John, Carolyn, Kate, Terry, Bex, Nancy, and Rachel. Much love goes out to my Zoom family, Robert, Roz, Paula, Brian, Jen, Elizabeth, Nicole M, Nicole B, Katie, Shirley, Tracy, and Georgianne. Thank you very much for the time we spent this past week. Special thanks goes out to my fellow podcasters. I so appreciate your shout outs. Thank you, thank you. And of course, all my love goes back to you guys. A huge part of why I podcast was because of my appreciation of the podcasts that I watched, and I wanted to be a part of that community. Scott and John over at Sweet Tea No Shade, mwah, more episodes guys. Leanne at Southern Colonial Dyeworks, and Daniel and Patrick at Daniel and Patrick Craziness. Go give these guys some love. Daniel and Patrick have a subscriber goal this school year where they're trying to double their subscriber count. Pop on over. Their videos are usually just a couple of short minutes of some really very entertaining bits, and these boys are creative and industrious. We want to be sure that we give them the time and attention that they need, because if we don't rein them in, they're going to rule the universe. I will have a link right here for Daniel and Patrick Craziness. I love these kids. Go check them out. Warm hello and thank you, of course, go to all of my patrons. You guys honor me, and I really appreciate the support you provide me. So what have I been doing? I've been on vacation for the past week. And I really struggled this week with naming my podcast episode. I try to put a title on it every episode. You guys, you follow me, you've seen this. And I couldn't define how I was going to label this week. And it really occurred to me that it is definitions. How I define things, how you define things, how we define things in our lives, vary greatly depending on our perspective. And I have discovered over the past week that my definition of vacation varies very differently from other people's definitions of vacation. I look at vacations that other people take where they go to a house on a lake for a week and they relax with family. And I look at people who fly to tropical destinations, and I have envy of these things. And then I sit down and I plot my vacation and the time off I'm going to have. And my vacations are almost inevitably staycations where I bust my butt working. My knitting and my dyeing, while they are home businesses for me, they are my fun businesses. They are my hobby businesses. And whenever I have spare time, that's what I dedicate my spare time to, because I enjoy it so much. Of course, I'm preparing for a trunk show, and a huge chunk of the time I had taken off was dedicated wholly to that preparation. And as much as there was long hours, long hot hours in my kitchen, it was fun. It was what I enjoyed. And it's very much, while it's work, it's not so much work as I'm playing really hard. And when I go back to work tomorrow, that soon. When I go back to work tomorrow, I am going to be rejuvenated and I am going to be refreshed. And I actually, there's a piece of me that's looking forward to going back to work just because I have had such a different type of work over my vacation that I've fulfilled many things. I've had some relaxing time. I've had a lot of fun and laughter hanging out with some of my friends. I've had some tears, but it was so significantly different from my work life that it truly was a vacation. It truly was a refreshment. And I keep glancing over here at this table covered with yarn for my trunk show because it is monumental, because it is inspiring, because it is a huge accomplishment for me, and because it just makes me happy knowing that I'm fulfilling that dream, that I'm doing all this. And how about I give you a peek at what I'm staring at? So this is just some of the yarn that I completed over this past week, and I am so in love with all of it. So much of this is just beautiful and happy. So what else did I do on my vacation? I died. I cooked. I did a lot of preparatory cooking, which it's just my husband and I here, but we work long hours, we have a long commute, and being able to come home and pull a prepared homemade meal out of the freezer and just reheat it and sit down saves us from going out and spending money that we shouldn't be spending. It saves us time and it provides us with nutritious meals. I love to do it. I made cookies and I made breads and I made soups and crackers, and I made shredded meats for easy stir fries, and I made meatloaves. I made a lot of meatloaf. And I so enjoy that. My background actually is in culinary arts. I did study culinary arts in school, and when I'm cooking, I'm very fulfilled. I'm very happy. I like that work. I think that's a lot of why I'm so happy when I'm dyeing yarns, because I'm still cooking and I'm still creating beautiful things, solid, colorful presentations, even if I'm not creating caloric nightmares. I did a little bit of design work this week, and I'm going to show that off to you a little bit and talk with you a little bit about that in a minute. So let's look at knitting. What have I done? What did I knit this week? I didn't knit a lot. I did do some design work, like I said, and I have been working on my barn dance shawl. The barn dance shawl is my 3-color version of the farmhouse shawl. I'm loving it. It's about everything I dreamt of. I'm really happy with it, actually. It's been going a little bit slow just because I dedicated so much time to my dye work. And I did have the opportunity to film a quick tutorial about the applied lace border, so that held me up a little bit. I got to the point where I was ready to do the applied lace, and then it was a matter of waiting for lighting to be good and waiting for some other projects to finish up before I had the time to sit down and actually film that tutorial. I had a rough day this week. Some days the planets just misalign and nothing quite goes the way it's supposed to. And it started with the coffee maker. I've talked about my trials with my coffee maker recently. That I had it, I figured it out, I knew how to get this thing to work. Well, I stumbled out of bed and I had a couple things I needed to do that day, and I decided I'm going to have a cup of coffee. And I went over, and I've got this new method that I'm doing where I wet the filter first so that it breaks the surface tension and the water flows through properly, and theoretically it doesn't flood and the grounds don't come over the edge of the basket and I don't end up with Oreo cookie teeth from coffee grounds in my coffee. So I wet the basket and I measured out the water and I poured the water and I hit the button and everything was good. I took a shower, I came back, and there's water in the carafe. That's not right. I'm like, well, that was stupid. Come on, Jess. So I took the carafe and I poured the water in the reservoir and I hit the button and it started to do its gurgle thing, and I ran off into my studio and I did other things, and I come back out for my cup of coffee and there's water in the carafe. At which point I looked at it, oh, this stupid thing, and what's wrong with this coffee maker now, and I'm so sick of this coffee maker not working. And I opened the lid, and part of making coffee is actually adding coffee grounds to the basket. User error, user error. I needed that coffee so much more than I thought I did. So I added grounds to it, and I took the already twice heated water and put it back in the reservoir and hit the button again, and it gurgled, and I stood there this time glaring at it, making sure that coffee actually came out. Coffee did come out, the basket overflowed, I ended up with grounds in my coffee, probably because I called the coffee maker bad names and it had to get back at me somehow. So I had crunchy coffee. And then I had my coffee. I drank my coffee, muttering under my breath at my own foolishness. And I came in here and I sat down and I filmed this tutorial. I had another event I needed to do. I was getting tight on time. Filmed the tutorial. And you know that time that everything just flows off your lips and it's perfect. You don't have to do double takes. You don't have to edit. Everything is smooth and perfect. I was so excited. You could hear the smile in my voice because I knew this had slid off like I was selling a used car. It was great. Got all done, took the card out of my camera, slid it into my computer, booted that up, pulled up my editing software because I knew all I've got to do is put a title on this. This is great. Trim the ends. Perfect tutorial video. No sound whatsoever. I very much like the coffee not going in the basket. I had plugged in the microphone, which immediately overrides the onboard microphone on my camera. However, I had not turned on said microphone. At which point, right now, I'm checking my camera and I can see right there on my readout screen there is a level indicator that's showing me that it is picking up sound. I'm paying much more attention to these things now because I have nightmares about sitting down and doing like an hour-long episode and interacting with you guys here, only to discover that it's just going to be me like a Muppet with no sound. I did express my frustration to a couple of my friends who said, oh, no big deal, just overdub it. Unfortunately, a large segment of said tutorial was very much like this, where I'm sitting and addressing the camera, and all I could think of was it was going to turn out like Kung Fu Theater, where my mouth was moving and my words weren't going to match up at all. So after my appointment, I came back and I refilmed the tutorial, focusing only on the knitting so that if the sound was bad, I could reasonably do a voiceover this time. It took me like 6 takes. I still need to finish editing it. And it was just that my confidence had been shot by that one failure because that first take came out so smooth. The stars simply weren't in alignment, and I had to step back and give myself some grace and forgive myself for my mistakes. Stop beating myself up. I'm human. I was half asleep when I tried to make coffee 3 times. And just kind of breathe through all that and let my day happen. And I really gave myself some grace. I said, look, you've been working really hard. You've spent long hours dyeing. John's been away, so I've been living some weird hours. I've really had very little sleep and taking care of the dogs and the chickens. My chickens are laying eggs. Yay, I'm finally getting eggs. It's been a very, very full week. And so I took the rest of that day, balled it up and threw it over my shoulder and sat on the sofa and watched some TV. And hung out with some friends digitally online, and really gave into some rest and some relaxation. And that is probably the closest I came to the common definition of vacation, where I sat and I did nothing. And it was valuable time. That downtime rejuvenated me and got me ready for the next steps of my week. So I then was able to work again on my barn dance shawl. And I'm going to show you my progress. It's not done. I'm still working on the applied edge, the applied border edge. But I love the colors. I'm really, really happy with it. And it's all balled up on the needle here, except for the edge that's done. And it's all curly and crazy, but this is ultimately what we're looking at here. I'm loving the colors. I'm loving how the stripes come up. I can't wait to block this and wear this. There's my applied lace edge. Try to hold that up. It's all curly and crazy until it's blocked. But I'm so happy with the colors. And I'm likely to set this one up as a kit so that you can get these 3 colors. I'm still toying with what the alternate kit would be. I'd like to offer 2 kits. I know that for the farmhouse shawl, there was great interest in this violet and this sterling color, and I've been thinking very hard about what the 3rd color would be for that. And I need to do some black and white photography to make sure that the 3 colors I'm thinking of will work, that there will be enough contrast between the 3 shades. But do I have the colors to show you? I don't think I do. But I do have the 3rd color that I'm thinking of, and I can show you that. So you'll have to visualize a little bit. So think of the violet, think of sterling, and let's talk about teal with that. There'd be cool jewel tones. I think it would be really, really pretty. This is the color I'm thinking of to go with the sterling and the violet. And the violet is a soft violet. I think I have the violet. Let me check. Ha, I'm a liar. I have all 3 colors. I'm really excited because now that I see all 3 together, I'm loving it. And I think that this is going to be a very popular option. I fully suspect that the contrast between these 3 will be sufficient and you'll be able to see it. The hardest connection is going to be the violet against the silver, and let me hold those up together. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be beautiful. So I think this is one, I'm going to double check it. I need to do some black and white photography to make sure that that contrast is on point, because all 3 colors end up touching at one point or another, and I want to make sure that it's distinct, that it stands out, that it looks good, that there's a visual punch to it. So I do need to double check this against some black and white photography, but I think that this combination of 3 would be beautiful together. Weigh in, let me know what you think. So a little bit of design work still going on. I do need to finish Barn Dance. I do need to get the photography done. I'm about 1/3 of the way through the applied edge. I'm really loving it. It's so easy. It's such a pretty way to bind off and add just that little extra something to the shawl. So that's going well. But I also mentioned that I was doing some design work. So Mom and Maine, my mom kind of reached out to me and she said, you know, these are really pretty, I like them, but I really just want some TV knitting. I want some knitting that's easy to memorize, that I can just do while I sit in front of the TV, that'll give me a textured look. And she wanted it on a thicker yarn, on a heavier gauge yarn, which I love the idea of. I love the idea of. So that really the yarn just sings, it speaks. You can use one color start to finish, and the texture interplays with the yarn and you get a nice punch out of that. So I got really thinking about, okay, heavier gauge. Let's bump this up to worsted. She said that she wanted the same 3/4 square shape that barn dance and farmhouse are designed under. And easy enough, I've got that shape all set. I need to do some math and sort out my gauge again. And she wanted texture. She wanted something like a knit purl chevron kind of stitch or some other similar stitch that was going to provide texture and some relief and show off the yarn. So I sat down and I started to swatch. I learned a lot of lessons swatching for this. I started the project on a US 8 with some Cascade 220. And I had my stitch dictionary out and I looked at some different texture stitches, something that I would be able to increase with nicely, something that was an easy memorization. And I went with a strong knit purl pattern that was going to require action on both the right and wrong side rows. And on a US 8, while the texture was there, it didn't have any punch. You couldn't really see it. And my gut reaction whenever I have not enough relief in my texture is to tighten my work, to go down a needle size. But I was looking at the fabric of this, and this is why we swatch. And the fabric was gonna be stiff. I'm trying to make a shawl. Stiff isn't going to work, which means I absolutely had to go up a needle size. So I bumped up to a 9 and I changed the stitch a little bit. One of the problems that I was having with it was that there was action on both the right and the wrong side rows. You're always going to have to remember knits and purls, and it was going to swap back and forth. And that was mind active. The point of this was that it was supposed to be a relaxing knit, a TV knit, something that you could just pick up and identify where you were and kept going. And you should easily be able to read the stitches on the fabric so that you don't necessarily have to read the written word or necessarily check your chart every row. You could look at it and say, okay, this pattern is still increasing, this pattern is still decreasing, and I just have to remember to do my increases at these points. So I changed up the stitch a little bit, and I changed it to more of a garter pattern so that the pattern is only being worked on the right side rows, and the wrong side rows are really rest rows. All the increasing is done on the right side, all of the purling is done on the right side, knit and purl interchange, and then on the wrong side row you basically just purl back. Boom, done. And the relief of the stitches was significantly better on a bigger needle. And I had to think about that. I really had to look at that and go, okay, why is the stitch definition better on a bigger needle? I would have thought that tightening the work would have made the stitch definition punch. And it didn't. It would have turned the work into cardboard. And it still wasn't quite as loose. It wasn't shawl material yet. It was still kind of rigid. So I went needle diving and I found a 10. And I continued my swatch on a US 10. And the stitch definition got even better. And the fabric developed even more of a drape. And while I'm working this swatch up, just knitting a rectangle of this and determining the fabric that I wanted to create, I had some downtime, that float mental time as you just put rows on, to really investigate why the stitch definition was so much better. And it was not a stretch, it was not genius math or anything like that. It was simply understanding what was happening. And what was happening was I was allowing more yarn in each of those stitches. So the yarn had greater opportunity to reach out and turn and relief off of the fabric. There was more yarn for each of those stitches to work with. Whereas the tighter I got, the more work that stitch had to do. The looser I got, the looser the stitches could be and the more they would come off of the actual fabric. It makes perfect sense. I don't know why I feel like I need to always down needle and beat my yarn into submission, but having done this swatch and really experiencing the fabric and getting the fabric to work the way I wanted it to, so it had both drape and stitch definition, I learned a lot of lessons. And as much as we hate to swatch, believe it, I hate swatching. Ugh. It tastes bad in your mouth. The word swatch tastes funny, doesn't it? It's so important to what we're doing, especially if you're designing. Because had I just cast this on the 8, it would have, I think, knit up, it would have been a very stiff cape. It would have just right off the shoulder level, and it would have been like a giant plate. It would have been very Vogue. Versus being drapey and lovely. And I would have had to stretch it really bad. I would have had to hard block it to get it to have the drape that I want. Whereas this fabric is developing into a drape to begin with. So once we block this, it's going to be sumptuous. From that swatch, I then jumped off and I looked at, okay, it's a much bigger gauge. So I don't want a single spine stitch at each of the increases. I want 3 spine stitches at each of the increases. I want it to define more. I want it to be chunkier. I want it to be warmer. And so I cast on and I started knitting my sample, which I'm going to rip out. You only get so much information swatching. You get a fabric, you get a drape, you get a stitch definition, you get a gauge. But sometimes, especially with garment design, you need to get into the real life point of the pattern before you can see exactly how all the elements are interacting and make deeper edits, bigger edits. If this were clothing design, this would be my muslin. This would be where I laid it out in a really inexpensive, non-patterned fabric to see the base elements, to see how the structure is working before I start to apply the end fabric to it. And that's where I'm at. This is my muslin. This is my test. And I'm going to hold it up so that you can see the stitches. Now, mind you, this is not blocked, so you're going to see a lot of bumpy lumpy. But there's my stitches. That's how that's coming out. And I'm really liking it. There are a couple temporary names for this. I'm still trying to figure out what we're calling this, so I'm not going to bother telling you. There'll be more about this as this develops. But it's a nice, big, warm, wrappy shawl. And because it's at worsted, it knits up really quick. This is just a little bit of time sitting down and playing with this stitch. It's on a US 10. I'm loving it. However, the more this developed, the more this came out, the more I was able to see how the increases were laying out, the more I was able to see how the collar was shaping up, the edge stitches here, the more I was able to see how the edge on the far ends was going to work, the more I recognized this as kind of a cardi shawl, that it's not a sweater. It's not a wrap, it's not a shawl, it's kind of a intermingling of that, where you can use it just as a wrap, you can use it as a shawl or a scarf, or you can just leave it kind of drape over your shoulders like an open cardigan. And I loved the warm boyfriend, grandpa kind of feel of this, that there was a masculinity to it, that there was an asexual nature to it, that it just spoke of bulky warmth. And I thought about the design, and I thought about this edge, and I thought, wouldn't it be neat to really harness more sweater elements into this without making a sweater, without having to make a fitted garment? Just kind of reflect more of the sweater element to it and put those features into this so that it had more ambiguity, that it was a little bit more conceptual toward the cardi look. And so I'm going to rip this back out and make some modifications to the base styling and design. The stitch is going to stay the same. The increase panel is going to stay the same. but it's going to get a little bit more of a collar on it so that when it's wrapped around your neck, it reaches a little bit higher so that it comes up and you get a little bit more of a collar on it. And a little bit thicker of an edge along the open edge. And a couple other little tweaks. And it would give anybody who chose to knit it a lot more options, including if you opted to embellish this with some buttons. That could be really neat and would supply some really neat styling options as to how you could wear it. I'm not saying the words button band yet, but it could happen. It could happen. And yet, my whole goal is to keep this very much in the TV knitting realm, where you just can mindlessly knit happily while you're watching your favorite shows and get a great piece. That's how that works out. I don't know if that gives you insight into my design process. I don't have a set structure for how I design things. I don't have a set routine. My design process is very organic and I have to remain flexible. I have to get to a point where, yeah, I'm a long ways into this. There's a solid 8 inches on here. I could readily just knit another 8 inches of this and bind it off. But I'm not 100% happy with the design. And I need to stay flexible and say, this is great, but I can do better, and rip it out. And that's what's going to happen with this. And I'm actually kind of excited about ripping that back, because making these edits, making these changes is going to elevate this design so much more, rather than just conceding and going, well, I like it, that's good enough for me. Nah, push it, go to the end, define yourself and say, this is nice, but it's not quite what I want. I want to do more. I want to push it further. That's where I've been, my design wheels are going. I'm loving it. So what else is going on? Barn Dance, like I said, is a new design that I'm working on. It is the 3-color version of my farmhouse shawl. This guy is a totally new, yet unnamed process. But the farmhouse shawl and the barn dance shawls were part of my design along, and I've got to push. I have until September 1st to get that edge bound off. I've got 2 weeks. I've got 2 weeks. So the design along. Not only do I have 2 weeks, but you have 2 weeks. If you're still interested in joining, if you still have a project on the needles, you've still got time to get it posted in there. It's over on my Ravelry project group. You can post your finished project in our finished objects thread for entry, and we have prizes. I have prizes. They're sitting right here. We're going to do 2 prize levels. We're going to do a favorite, and we're going to do a random drawing. And I'm going to show off the prizes now. I want to really, really thank everyone who donated prizes. I've created these 2 prize packs. However, I received a lot more prize donations than that. They're going to be giveaways. We have big giveaways coming up. We have big other events coming up. If you don't see your donation here, believe it, it is in a big old bucket. Let me grab my big old bucket. I have a big old bucket of other goodies here, and we're going to do all kinds of giveaways and fun stuff with that. So thank you for your generosity. Thank you for all of your donations. The packs that I pulled together just because there's a continuity to them, and I wanted to try and get something from everybody in these packs. So I'm so excited. I haven't determined quite whether pack 1 is going to be for the drawing and pack 2 is going to be for the favorites, or how that's going to work. I may let the winners simply be first one to claim and see if that works out. We will go from there. If you like that idea, please send me comments. Let me know what you're thinking. If you'd like to have a 3rd level option for prizes, please step up. Tell me what you think the criteria could be so that I have some way to determine who the winner of the 3rd package would be. And we've got stuff we can make that happen. So let me show off the 2 packs that I have designed so far. I have this beautiful pink drawstring project bag. This is handmade by Faye. Thank you, Faye, for your donation. It's so cute. It's fully lined. It has some really fun fabric in here. Just lovely. Included in this prize pack, we have yarn from Rosalie at Yarn Matrix. This is her robin's egg yarn. It's so pretty. Notice I coordinated. It's blues with little bits of pink in it. It's so pretty. This is a fingering weight. It is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It is squishy soft loveliness. Also in this pack, we have donated by Jenna. We have the Silk Road Socks Hunter Hammerson coloring postcards. For those of you that are stress colorers, nice little pack of cards there. It's all sealed up. I don't know how many cards we have. I think it's lovely. I have from Cappy over at the Yarn and I. She gave us this Coca-Cola Progress Keeper marker here. And I've got everybody's websites listed at the end and down in the show notes. Go give these people some love. Thank them for their donations. I also have from Knitsy's Porch one of her little tins with her stitch markers in it. And this particular pack, I'm going to pop this open and show you, is a lovely set of a Progress Keeper as well as a whole bunch of her snagless stitch markers. I got to block my face so it focuses. Really a pretty set. They come in this handy tin. Knitsy's stuff is just gorgeous. All of these things, and I mean all of these things except for, of course, the postcards, were handmade by you guys, and that means so much. This is blood, this is sweat, this is tears, this is love, this is passion, and it is so meaningful. There is so much intention in this. This is just like those chocolate chip cookies made by Grandma. You can taste the love, and I am so proud to have the opportunity to draw attention to these items and to get them out to you as prizes. Thank you, thank you. This is, I'm so proud. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to hear from you guys, from the winners of these things. Pack number 2 is another beautiful bag made by Faye. Faye, thank you. This has a nice handle on it, and it's a zippered pouch, fully lined. Again, super cute fabrics. I love her fabrics. In this particular prize pack, we have a pattern of choice from Carmen Newland. She is a Simple Homestead Designs over on Ravelry. She's given us a coupon code for the pattern of your choice. She has 32 designs to choose from. I am quite sure you'll find something you love. I have another Progress Keeper from Cappy. This one was made by her mother, Marcia, and it is beautiful. It's a Namaste hand and a little elephant Progress Keeper with a little red crystal in it. So pretty. Marcia, thank you. Knitsy has another little tin of Progress Keeper and her snagless stitch markers. This set is green. I chose it to match up with the inside of this bag. It's so pretty. I love these stitch markers. I have been using these on my barn dance shawl. Not this particular set, my bed set. I love them. They are honestly, truly snagless, and they come in this great little tin. Knitsy's Porch on Etsy.com. And finally in this pack, again from Rosalie. Rosalie, you were so generous. Thank you. I have another skein of her 75-25 Superwash Merino 25% nylon fingering. Party in the pot. Look at that. That bright berry pink and the purple and all these lovely lavender tones. So pretty. I'm so excited. All of these all come bundled up in your little prize pack here. And again, all of these items were made by somebody. This is love. This is, oh, it's everything. Can you tell how excited I am? I can't wait to mail these out to winners. I can't wait. And of course, you know me, I'll be sneaking other little goodies in there. There'll be other little bits of joy that you don't expect added to that. There is a thread for your finished objects over in the Ravelry group. Pop over. Make sure you your post in the finished thread, a finished objects thread. Here we go. Please don't do any comments in there. If you want, please share it over in the progress thread as well, so that people have the opportunity to tell you how fabulous your work is. I am closing entries September 1st. You have until midnight September 1st. Ultimately, it'll be when I'm awake September 2nd that I will close that. So you can sneak in under the wire as long as you beat me. I will close the thread. It will be locked. There won't be the ability to post any further. Your design can be anything. It could be a washcloth. You have 2 weeks. You can still get in there. Please, if you are making a modification of somebody else's design, make it a significant modification. Make it your own. It doesn't have to be a published pattern. It simply has to be a completed object. Very excited to do that. I have so many beautiful things in there. We have socks, we have shawls, we have a sweater, we have cowls, just beautiful creative works. And I will be setting up a vote thread for the favorite, and we will be voting for a favorite of all the patterns, of all the designs that are made, and that will be the criteria for one of the prizes. The criteria for the other prize will be a random drawing. I will remove the winner of the favorite from that so that one person doesn't win both prizes. I do want to spread the love as much as possible here. What else is going on? We have our Knit Together community mixer. Please, that is only open one more week. It is open worldwide. The links are going to be down below. There is a link thread over in the Ravelry group, in the Knit Up and Dye podcast group. You've got one more week to register your interest in that. This is great. This is good fun. This is where I knit up exclusive colorways, dye up exclusive colorways, and there will be 2 skeins of each colorway. There'll be a private shop. There'll be a huge discount. You'll go in, you'll buy the colorway that speaks the most to you. Your contact information will be traded with the person who buys the mate of that. And you'll get a new friend, and you'll have something in common already, whether it's your favorite colorways, or it's the podcast, or it's that you're both crafters. You'll have somebody new to interact with. We are also doing, and I'm very excited about this, the Ornament Exchange. Ornament Exchange is open to the US only this time. We have registration open until September 1st. You've got until September 1st to dedicate to this. There is a $7 participation fee, and that's so that I can afford to ship everything back out to you guys. The whole concept is you're going to make 6 ornaments. Fiber related, I don't care if they're tatted, knit, felted, crocheted, woven, something that incorporates fiber. Make 6, ship them to me. I'm going to swap them all around among everybody who enters into this. I'm going to add some goodies, and I'm going to ship them all back out to you so that you get an assortment of handmade ornaments in time for Christmas. I know it's August. I know talking about Christmas right now just makes everybody dizzy and sick. This is good fun. And believe it or not, I already have received ornaments from some people, and they're beautiful. It's so heartwarming to know that this interaction is happening. I love it. I'm very excited. Have I knit my ornaments yet? No. Have I decided what I'm even going to knit? No. I've teased out a couple things. I've tried a couple things. I have some flights coming up. I'm going to have a lot of dedicated downtime where I can't avoid working on it, and I can sit down and really focus and do some intention knitting and just put love into this and create those ornaments. That's the plan. We define our time, don't we? Please, if you're interested, pop on over. Registration for that is at www.dyemonkeyyarns.com. Go ahead and click on the Ornament Exchange to register. You make your payment, your participation fee payment right there through PayPal. It's all secure. And we currently have 13 people registered. I'm so excited. So I just mentioned that I am taking a bunch of flights. I will be at Unwound in La Crosse, Wisconsin, September 20th through 23rd for my trunk show. All the yarns that I showed you that I dyed up this week are for that trunk show. I'm so excited. We have a number of events scheduled. We're doing a Q&A Friday night from 4 to 6 p.m. This is a bring a snack, bring your knitting, bring your crochet, bring your spinning, and put me on the spot. Ask me tough questions about my design process, about my dyeing, about anything, my color theory, whatever you want. We're all gonna sit and snack and have some fun and just do questions and answers. Great fun. I did this last year. I loved it. It was so much fun, and it really actually inspired a number of my blog posts too, because people wanted to know the stories behind the colorways, what my thought process was, and how I felt about creating those colorways, or why I named them the way I did. And I didn't realize that that would be as interesting to people as it is. It's interesting in my silly little world, but people really actually enjoyed that. And so I have a number of blog posts dedicated to that, and I've got a number of new ones coming up because I created some new colorways, and there's some stories behind those too. Sunday the 23rd from 10 a.m. until noon, we're having a brunch over at Java Vino. We did this last time. I give out swag bags. You'll want to be sure that you RSVP with Unwound either by phone or on their Facebook page so that they have a head count and so that we have a space large enough for you, and of course so that I can create all those wonderful swag bags for you guys. Sunday also, after we have our brunch, we're going to run back to the shop and we're going to have a class from 1 until 3 where I am teaching sock blank dyeing. We have limited space, so please contact the shop to register. We're going to dye sock yarn like a monkey. We're going to learn the mechanics of dyeing the sock blank, whether you're blending the primary colors to get a variety of effects or whether you're doing speckling, whatever. We're going to cover self-striping, stenciling, fading and grading techniques, and we're going to create masterpieces in class. You're going to end up with your own sock blank that you've made. Please wear comfortable clothing that you can get messy in, and make sure you register for that. I would love to stuff that workspace full. We do have limited space, but I would love to hit that limit, so come on in. Well, what else? I've talked about dye, I've talked about knitting, I've talked about design, I've talked about classes, I have talked about community events. I think that's everything I have for you guys. I do. I do not have this next month's Patreon yarn designed yet. What is Patreon? Patreon is a program where you can financially support what I do here, my designs, my work, and my podcast, as well as some exclusive videos that are coming up very, very shortly. The Patreon is a membership program where you have a number of membership levels that you can participate in that have a number of different benefits, whether it's yarn that you receive every month, or there's drawing levels or coupon codes. Check it out. There's a lot of stuff available there. It was brought to my attention recently, thank you Eve, that a couple of my colorways coordinated really beautifully, and I'm excited about that. But there were also a couple colorways that were so close that they could actually be worked together, and you're not going to see a significant difference between them. And Eve was asking if I track my colorways. I knew that they were close, but I didn't realize how close they were, and I'm really glad that she brought this to my attention because it's really interesting. I log every recipe that I ever do for all of my dyeing. And when she showed me that the Cherry Cola Twist, and I'm gonna mess up the name here. It's in here, I know it's in here. It was the one I did at Valentine's Day, What the Heart Wants. When she showed me that those two colorways are super, super close, I went back and I looked at the recipes to make sure that I'm honoring you, to make sure that I am creating an exclusive colorway every time. And there's great science in this. I looked at both recipes and there is no overlap in the dyes that I use. Merely the combinations of dyes that I used had their own chemical reactions and created colorways that were really close. I aim to achieve a new colorway, an exclusive colorway for you guys every month as part of the Patreon program. And I'm going to try to pay much closer attention to really give you an exclusive colorway. But in addition to that, I'm preparing to set up an exclusive Patreon colorway shop that my Patreons will have access to exclusively as part of your membership, where you can buy additional skeins of your favorite colorways. This will not be open to the public. This will be for my patrons only. And I'm really excited about that opportunity to get you more of what you love and to show off the spectrum of all that I've created. If you have comments, if you have questions, if you have interest in seeing certain colors come up in the exclusive colorways, reach out to me. I love hearing from my patrons. Just pop on over to our Patreon page and you can send me a private message right there, or email me, or comment in the threads. There's a million ways to reach me. I do not have any plans currently for any more live episodes. This will come back. I really enjoyed the live episodes. I simply am gearing up for this trip in September. Like I just said, I've got that trip coming up in September from the 20th through the 23rd. It's 1 month out. I've got a lot of prep to do. So I'm not going to schedule a live quite yet. Once the trunk show is done and I'm home and I'm settled back in, we're going to do another live episode. Absolutely. That is everything I have for you guys. I love you. Thank you so much for joining me. Technique videos are coming up. The test for the barn dance shawl is about a week out. I've got to get the photography done, which means I got to finish the edge, which means I need to stop talking to you guys and I need to go knit. I love you. I'll see you all next week. Bye.